welcome back to the channel. I'm Vanessa, and today we're going to talk about A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf and what she has to say to writers. A Room of One's Own has a lot more in it than just what I'm going to talk about today. I go into greater depth about all the details from Shakespeare's hypothetical sister Judith to how she feels about Jane Austen and the Bronte sisters and some other famous poets throughout history. I go into that over on Fable Collective, which is my podcast. So if you're interested in that, I will link it down below. The first thing that we're going to talk about is time. Virginia Woolf felt like women had to have free time to explore their imaginations and indulge their creative pursuits. A lot of times throughout history, women did not have that sort of time because they were busy being wives and mothers and trying to just run a household. And that's something that Virginia Woolf says that women really need in order to be able to have the freedom to be creative and to explore their imaginations. The second thing she talks about needing is money. Woolf explains that to write freely, women need to have some sort of financial security. She herself had inherited 500 pounds a year from her aunt, and that allowed her an independence of sorts and gave her the ability to not have to worry about how she was going to pay bills and survive. Instead, she was able and had the privilege of being able to take care of herself and being able to do nothing but concentrate on her writing if she wanted. It also was enough money to travel and to experience other things, and so it was a decent amount of money in order to have a humble but yet really well-lived life. And the 500 pounds a year is actually the equivalent in US dollars to being about $3,400 a month. So that sort of gives you an idea of how much she was working with and how much she had. The third thing that she talks about needing is, of course, a room of one's own. She says that having a space where a writer can close the door helps her achieve her goals. And I can honestly see that, just needing a space. I do not have an office of my own, but I do have a little hallway that I use for writing and for all of my work. And just having that little bit of space that's mine, I can see the allure to what she's saying. She does prefer for you to have an actual room somewhere you can actually close the door though, because it's almost like separating yourself from the obligations of the world, from the difficulties that are outside of that, and you just kind of lock yourself into a world of stories. The fourth thing she talks about is idleness. And from the context of what she's written, I believe that she means idleness in the way that she just wants you to slow down. She wants you to be able to connect with yourself, and she wants women to be able to have the ability to engage with this deeper thought that if we don't have that type of slowing down, if we don't have a little bit of idleness in our lives, we won't be able to do those things. And I understand that too from a point that she was a regular walker. She walked a lot in the afternoons, and walking is a way of sort of letting go of everything that's going on and actually connecting with nature, but also with your imagination and your spirituality. I think all of this is part of this idleness that she's talking about. She just wants you to connect deeper and have the freedom to do so. The fifth thing that she talks about is contentment, and she talks about this in a roundabout way when she talks about Jane Austen and the Bronte sisters. She says that a woman must have peace with her own circumstances, and instead of circumstances, she uses the word lot, which I hear my grandparents use, so I was really familiar with that. So she says that you need to be content with your lot in life. And that contentment will keep any anger or resentment that you may feel from not being happy from bleeding into your work. She had a little bit of beef to pick with Charlotte Bronte because of that, because she felt like Charlotte Bronte allowed her own circumstances to sort of bleed into Jane Eyre. Though I feel like A Room of One's Own is a great read, there are criticisms, and mind you, this was written in 1928 and published in 1929. But one of the criticisms is that many women have been able to write amazing stories in poverty and obscurity, and that kind of goes against what she's saying, is that women write their best work while having these things available. But we know that historically women have done all of these things and been hugely successful. And so yes, there is that, but I think what she's really saying is not that it can't be done, but it can't be done comfortably without these things. The second thing that people tend to criticize is that some people believe that writing from pure personal emotion is what makes good writing. The whole point of her saying that someone needs to be content with their lot in life is because she thinks that anger and negative emotions tend to bleed through, and if you're not content with that, with your life, then it will be harder for you to not have that bleed through your work, and for your characters to be completely genuine and authentic in and of themselves and not in and of you as the writer. And so, but some people disagree with that and feel like strong emotion is what makes good writing. I personally can see both arguments. But I think generally we all sort of strive to be content and happy with our lot in life, so I still don't think that's bad advice anyway. Number 3 is that many women are able to balance writing and motherhood and working other jobs. So Virginia Woolf was coming from a place of privilege and a place where she didn't have to work other jobs outside of writing, just because she had that inheritance that allowed her to do so. However, we know a lot of women who have been able to do that, especially modern writers, and so some people might not find what she's saying in that regard as relevant. I do agree, though, to an extent, that it does make it harder to write if you work a full-time job. It makes it harder the more family and the more outside obligations that we have. So I think the way that women have overcome this is by being very mindful of their schedules and setting boundaries and balance. And we know that that is definitely the key to a good life no matter what. So I did have some questions for you. I would love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. Do you think her suggestions are still relevant today? Do you believe that women writers, or writers in general, are aptly paid? And would you add anything to her list or take something out? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you, and I will see you soon with another video. Take care. Bye-bye.